we're
The
going to talk about
Trump
what we're
comp.
expecting. Yeah, what we're expecting going into next week, election inauguration day. Sorry, and then shortly thereafter, maybe like because we don't know what really was going to happen. Like the moment that Trump gets into office, and then at that same moment, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary Gensler stepping down from the SEC, which I think is a huge catalyst. But before we went live, we were actually just talking about XRP. So if you're going to tell me why you hate XRP or why you love XRP, what's going on, just let me know
Okay,
right
dude,
now.
I said this before. I'm going to put my XRP hat on, and I'm going to talk really nicely about XRP right now, because long term, I don't believe in it. But the short term is like everything else. Everything's going to pump with Trump getting into office, with Gary Gensler coming out of office. I think that people have been pricing themselves in for this news for the past few weeks. I mean, after the inauguration, I mean, you saw the all-time highs of Bitcoin and a lot of the alts, except ETH, which that's like dead in the water right now. But we can talk
Yeah, I
about
don't know
that.
what's going on with that, brother. After you finish your statement, we're gonna have to talk about that because I like the project, but I think that it's dead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I think people have this notion that everything's just going to pump, and Bitcoin needs to lead the way, which it has been. And like we spoke about this offline, but traditional finance is finally catching up. You've heard those statements from BlackRock that Bitcoin and crypto is far outpacing the trends that you saw with the internet and mobile phones. So with XRP, everybody's trying to find the next Bitcoin, and I think that that's always been the case, right? And a lot
Yeah.
of people see the price that XRP is at, like $2 and what 40 something cents, and everybody's like, "Well, when it gets to 100,000, I'm going to be a quadruple billionaire." But I think,
Anything's possible. Remember, I actually posted on Twitter today. I'm very active on Twitter nowadays. That be careful. You never know what's really going to happen because even a broken clock can be right twice a day. But go ahead.
well, no, it's pumping right now, and I think that that's going against what I'm saying. Like, oh, if there's no value, then it should be dead in the water, like some other coins from last cycle. But I think XRP has a lot of bag holders, a lot of people who originally bought, last cycle, and even the cycle even before that. So we're talking about going on like 6, 7 years of people still holding this and holding out hope. And XRP has had contracts with like MoneyGram and these international. They're going to replace Swift, and that has not formalized yet. And the reason for that is because it's a lot of hype. And I also think that the reason for that, which segueing to something that we were going to discuss anyway, is the lawsuit, right? Or the appeal now, which they won the lawsuit against the SEC, and tomorrow's the deadline for them to finally, or the SEC to appeal that decision. Which I don't. If you had to ask me, I think it's being pumped up because I think that the SEC is going to lose that. Um, I think
But
Gary. Well,
but
yeah,
the
go
thing
ahead.
is that like it's more so like Gary Gensler leaving, right? Because if the SEC, let's say that Kamala Harris would have won in an alternate universe, I'm sure she did. She had no chance in this world, right? Where people are normal and they actually
Thank
think,
God.
and she has zero policies. So if she would have won, do you think that XRP would have been pumping the way it is now?
Well, I mean, you had what's the CEO's name? Brad
Garlinghouse,
House, Garley
Brad
House, right?
Garlinghouse.
Yeah, he was a big funder and donator to her campaign. So that's not
To
because
both,
he
let's be
likes
honest,
her.
transparency, both Trump and Harris, they played it really smartly. I believe Brad Garlinghouse donated to Trump and his co-founder donated to Harris, which I personally believe. Some people are like saying, "Oh, this, that's manipulation." I was like, "Listen, they're playing both sides because you never know, right? Just in case." But go ahead.
For sure, no, and I think that's the thing. Like when you're donating to a political cause, there's a bit of an altruistic, oh, I agree with this person's policy. But when you're donating large amounts like that, I think you're trying to move in, and you're trying to establish yourself as the key knowledge leader in that. And he played his card and he lost, and ultimately, I think that Ripple might suffer for that in the long term because the alignment is not there with what the community wants. And the entire crypto community wanted Trump to win, which she did. He had the majority
Well, what do you
support
mean? Because
from,
a few days ago, or sorry, last week, days are going by so fast nowadays,
yeah,
right?
man,
A few days ago, he was seen smiling, having dinner with President Trump
for
at
sure. But
Mar-a-Lago, Brad
I mean, you saw
Garlinghouse.
Trudeau come down. I mean, I think everybody's
Oh,
kissing the
that's
ring at this point,
well, Trudeau. That's a different
and he's
story for
out.
another day. But go ahead. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
I do feel like a lot of people are kissing the ring because they want to position themselves, or you see like Zuckerberg and Bezos have donated to Trump's inauguration, and I think that that's the reason behind that is that everybody's trying to position in this coming environment. Like Trump himself is going to come into the presidency holding Bitcoin, holding Ethereum, holding some of these alts. I mean, his portfolio's online. You could see it, and we could probably post a link for it. And I think that that's insane. Like we're gonna have the first crypto president in less than 6 days. But with
Oh my
that, I
God,
think
it's coming
a
up
lot of
fast.
things. Yeah, I don't think everything's gonna pump at the same time, though, right? Because it's just Bitcoin will rise every single boat that's there, but the ones that are going to really rise are the ones that have community for it. So maybe it is the determining factor is XRP's community, where they're going to start shilling it more, on Twitter, on X, and you're going to see more people buy because more people have to buy for the price to go up.
And also, you're gonna see TikTok dancers, influencers, that know nothing about crypto, talking about XRP going to
XRP,
$100.
Ripple,
Yeah. Hey man, you see, yeah, I just want to say a side note. You see a lot of beautiful women that like are relationship coaches that are now all of a sudden crypto experts that know about hardware wallets, giving advice, making videos about hardware wallet advice. I'm like, I saw you talking about relationships a year
right.
ago. It just happened,
Well,
and now
well, this
and
has
all of a
happened.
sudden you're a crypto expert.
Right. I mean, you see it with real estate agents, right? Like, somebody out of nowhere just becomes a real estate agent and, they know about the markets. But it's a complex thing. You could get into it and start learning, but you have to go through the pain of it all, right? And I think that a lot of people want that quick fix of like, okay, what's the new you see all the celebrities going online. Oh, what's the new coin
Yeah.
that everybody's investing in? And for me, for a market participant, right? And I'm not a, like us, but I don't want to be called an expert. I've just been doing this a little long.
Let's be
For me,
honest. Listen, a lot of people are tuning in for the first time because now I had comments off for a while and I didn't know I did, and now I turn on comments. And yeah, this is a crypto channel. We're not made for like advanced traders. We're made for basically people that just want to learn about crypto. So feel free to ask your questions. We talk mostly about the political landscape surrounding crypto and catalysts at a micro environmental level that can affect crypto prices. Not necessarily. Let's look at charts. Although if I don't have charts in the background, but
yeah.
we're not
Well,
necessarily let's look at charts and
Thad,
look at crunch numbers.
save yourself because this channel will grow. This is not financial advice. This is financial entertainment, right? Like, I would never give anybody advice. I just saw a comment. How can I double my money? Everybody wants to double their money. I got this and I got to double it. And it's hard to say that because number one, I'm not equipped, right? I don't have the licensing to give financial advice. And even the people that do don't really know about this world because I think people want to either be a degenerate and like get their $100 and make it 100x, or people want to really like maybe put Bitcoin in their retirement account. Are really looking 20, 30 years down the line. And I think you can do both, but you have to do the research. Like the mantra with crypto
Definitely.
is do your own research, right? So and AI makes it a little bit easier now. Like you can always go through, but if you have multiple streams of
Yeah,
news and
it
resources,
definitely makes it
yeah,
easier. And I just want to interject real quickly and say that Avi Lev, great YouTuber, one of the guys I listen to. I'm not sure if you listen to him. He's based in Israel, but he actually asked AI, "When is XRP going to hit $3?" And it hit $3 a day that AI said it was going to.
wow,
However, even AI could be wrong. No, let's be honest. AI can punch in seconds. It can crunch thousands of articles, thousands of news sources, thousands of charts in seconds and to give you an answer. But you
right,
always should do your own research because AI can be wrong. I believe that Bitboy it told Bitcoin was supposed to hit $100,000. I believe it was December 3rd, according to AI.
right,
But then South Korea happened, or South Korea happened. They had like a little situation, and then actually hit it the fourth. So AI
right.
can be right, but like Fernando's saying, to simple to your point, always do your own research.
Right. And I will make a prediction. XRP will hit $4.20. That's
Yeah,
already
of course. No,
it's
that's
already
a profit
written.
number. Yeah, Elon Musk when Tesla hit $420,
Right. It
right? It
was
was a prophecy.
420.69, right? The
Everybody,
prophecy is
yeah,
fulfilled. So
yeah,
that's
that was
making
great.
prophecy for XRP. But going back to like the more macro crypto vision, which is interesting to say because now this is its own world. Like you put on CNBC or Bloomberg, they have segments dedicated to this
Definitely, and
every day.
Even Forbes is making predictions, and I believe that BlackRock has added the Bitcoin ETF to their homepage,
Right.
which is pretty crazy in my mind.
Yeah, and I think that's because the I hate to say it, but the boomers are catching up, and the millennials are leading the way with a lot of these like meme coins, like the newest thing. And I think it's the average person, which is us, got caught in the middle where we can't move markets like the institutions. We're not BlackRock. As much as I could trade all day, I can't move markets. I'm a a basically a simp to these markets. I can only
Exactly,
see
or a cuck.
right.
But we were forced to watch on
Well,
the FR
yeah.
futures. Yeah, I'm just
I'm not a
kidding. But
cuck. I'm
anyway,
not a cuck, man.
No,
I
no,
like to see shit. I like to be in the
no,
action.
yeah, but you're right because like the traditional investor, right? Just people like us, retail investors, we don't have access to invest in these crazy indexes that are worth trillions of dollars sometimes, right? On any given day. But cryptocurrency is the new, it's the new frontier. It feels almost like when you read history books, right? I know a lot of people hate history. I love history. History doesn't always repeat, but it rhymes. We
Yeah,
had
I
the
love
Spanish
that saying.
influenza in early 1920. What do we have? COVID. Then
Right,
you had the flappers. We have Gen Z. It is what it is.
right, right, right. And
Now we have in the 1920s. You also had the stock market going crazy up until
right,
like 1930. And Raul Paul, one of the leading people in this space, crypto space, is saying, "Listen, we have until 2030 to make as much money as possible in crypto." That almost to me sounds like the 1920s rush in stock markets and bonds.
right. Well, the reason why a lot of people are looking at these markets, well, specifically the crypto market, to use as a vehicle to generate wealth, is because things are so volatile and the markets are inefficient. And because of that, there's a lot of opportunity there. With inefficiency, there's, if you know what you're doing, you catch people's mistakes, and that's kind of what I try to do with my own trading and my own investment, is catching mistakes. When there's blood on the streets, sometimes that's when you want to invest. When everybody's so bearish, that's the time to invest. When Jim Cramer is telling you to sell, that's the time to invest, right? Because a lot of
Yeah,
the
Jim Cramer said
right.
yesterday that the market's going to crash. And look what happened.
Right, because it's a psychological thing, and I think that a lot of people don't really understand that because they fall victim to the mass hysteria that people have. And you just had it, like, a couple weeks ago, not even a couple weeks, just a week ago, when Bitcoin hit. Actually, my apologies. It was yesterday. It hit $89,000, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is it. This is the end of the cycle. It's over." And we went up $7,000 in 12 hours because of the volatility. But with that comes a lot of people that, if you don't do your research and you fall victim to misinformation, or like the AI, because the AI is garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you're feeding it, that's what it's going to come out with. You have to really delve deep and look at the sourcing for a lot of the info that people get. um, in the beginning, it was podcasts for me, and like just trying to understand, reading books. Now it's like I have a fundamental way of how to read charts now and understand, liquidity, and where's supply and demand. That take time, and I think people could do it. But if this is not your 9 to 5 and you're just looking for some casual investment, then I think you should have money set aside for that one person. How can I double it? Well, I think you should just try to invest that $100, or and try to trade it to see what you can do, and just knowing that you will lose that $100. You
And
can't
definitely,
invest
and I just want to make
money.
a point that the 9 to 5, right? The way I started just before I lose my train of thought. I just wanted to mention this was that I
Yeah.
would do my 9 to 5 job, and I would actually just go to. I was living in New York City. I'm still in and out. I'm all over the place now. I'm decentralized.
Right.
Well, in New York City, we have the advantage. I had the advantage specifically. I live in Manhattan. That after work, I could literally go on Eventbrite and just find crypto events all over the city. And they have Crypto Mondays is headquartered in New York City.
Yeah.
So I could go to events, ask little questions, go to panel discussions, ask questions. And before we continue, the person that asked about doubling their money, they also want to understand what blockchain is. They were like, "You mean blockchain? Can you just give a quick description of what blockchain is, like a simplified versus crypto? What is blockchain? What is
Yeah.
crypto? Can you do
It's
that
just
quickly, like
like,
a
I
couple
mean,
sentences each?"
the best way I could describe it is like you have your bank account, Chase, Bank of America, whatever. Just imagine all those transactions being public, where it's anonymous, like you can't see the names. There you go. What is
But
that
go ahead.
book? Blockchain, the American Character. Well, yeah, that's it. And I think we're living in that age of decentralization, right? Where blockchain, basically, the technology behind it is it's a database, it's a distributed ledger, but it's public, and it allows people to verify their own transactions with others to see how things are being transferred among the network. It's valued because it's dollars, but it could be anything. Like, we had the NFT craze 2 years ago, which nobody talks about NFTs anymore, but that was on the blockchain. So it's not just money, but it's assets, but it's distributed publicly so that nobody controls it. That's,
And yet
I mean,
it's 24/7, right? Like if you
right.
in the SWIFT system, current SWIFT system right now, if you send $100 Western Union, you have to go through Western Union, an intermediate, right, person that takes money, or you send it via banks. It'll take a few days. You might have to do it on a weekday. If not, it'll take longer if you do it on the weekend or on a Friday. Cryptocurrency, I can send some. I have a friend slash intern in Japan that if he needs money for whatever reason, he asked me right now. I can send him $100 of Solana it'll be
Right.
there in a few seconds, and it'll charge me
Seconds.
0.0002 cents.
Cost you fractions of a penny sometimes with these transactions, right?
I sent money to my
Uh,
friend in Sudan, who's when he's going through the situation. It's there's
right.
some war and everything. He needed money, and I was like, "Listen, what's your crypto wallet?" And I was like, "Yo, here's $100."
Yeah, one of the ways that I got so similarly to you is I started pushing this idea for Cuba, and I had family down there and friends, and I started sending money to them. It was hard because they're like, "Well, what do I do with it?" I'm like, "Well, that's the whole point. We need to create a community where people start buying and accepting this, and trading goods for it." Which it started a bit, and then the government cracked down with the internet. And you could I'll send you some articles, maybe you could post it up, but that was something that really inspired me to understand not just the technology but the politics behind all this, right? Because this is a game changer for the third world, right, where they don't have bank accounts. Like, I mean, once you start researching this, I'm just there you go. i'm
No,
uh
sorry, sorry, no,
i'm
sorry. Is that you can continue? It's just that the gentleman actually said he wants to take a snapshot of this.
all
But
good.
go ahead, continue.
It's just basically the same thing that I'm regurgitating. People could probably do better research, but ultimately, this becomes a driver for financial freedom for a lot of people who normally wouldn't have it. Like, you go to some of the countries in the third world, you know how hard it is to open up a bank account, and then at that point, why would you? Because now the government's in your account now, knowing your transactions or whatnot. That's kind of the overarching theme. I think that the genesis for Bitcoin started after the 2008 financial crash. Um, Not the genesis of it, but
That's why it started because of the financial
right.
crash. They were
Well,
like,
the
"Listen, we can't
practicality of
rely
it,
on this right
right?
anymore. We have to do something different, and we need a peer to
And
peer system, right?" Which, by the
the
way,
the the
I
i- the
believe
id-
that that Bitcoin has failed in that regard. Personally, I believe that it is not a good transfer of money, but I think it's a good store of wealth. However, I believe it led to XRP, XLM, Solana cryptocurrencies that are fast and aren't expensive. I know
yeah,
if
and
you agree with
and
that.
the innovation with Bitcoin started maybe like 25 years even before Bitcoin. And there's like a video on
Actually,
YouTube.
Bitcoin. I went to a panel discussion that they said Bitcoin. The idea for Bitcoin goes back to like the 70s.
Well, you look at an interview with the one that I know is Frederick Hayek, he's an Austrian economist, free market. Anybody who's a libertarian puts this guy in a mantle, which I do too. I think he's a phenomenal economist and
Him
really
and Ron
succinctly.
Paul.
Right.
Uh,
Well, he's inspired by him too. Really succinctly put the damage that the state does. And there's an interview on YouTube. And if you look at Hayek Bitcoin prediction or whatever on YouTube, you'll see him, like, I think it's like 1984, 1985, where he says, not calling out Bitcoin specifically, but if there's an ingenious way that people can take money into their hands to basically subvert the government in the financial form, I think that trade of thought, with the technology finally matched up to Satoshi and the white paper and what we
yeah,
have
because
now, right?
before that you had Bit Gold, right? You had a bunch
Right.
of people tried many times, and I believe
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, but XRP
PayPal
used
at
to
one
XR
point.
yeah, they were trying to do the same thing, but XRP, yeah, but they were centralized and all that stuff. But XRP
Yeah.
specifically, it used to be called Ripple. Back, I actually found this out recently. Before 2017, it was called Ripple, but they didn't want to be a security or something. So right before they got sued, they let us change the name of this thing because people are talking about suing them. But XRP is actually older than Bitcoin, right?
No, I think as far as the token itself and the valuation and the white paper, I think Bitcoin is the grandfather of everybody. But XRP
Okay.
was one of the ones that I would say came out shortly then after it. I mean, I would have to, obviously do my own research to give you
Like
at least a date, but
I was looking at Coin Bureau, and they said that maybe the company in some way or some fashion, maybe because I know a lot of people from that help with Bitcoin. It was Satoshi Nakamoto that made the white paper, but yeah, a lot of people all over the world helped with the coding. A lot of people
right.
that worked on Bitcoin were upset about the fact that Bitcoin wasn't fast and inexpensive, and they could see that, hey, we need to go to another project. Some of them went to Ethereum like years later, but like right after that, a lot of them actually went to XRP because it was
Right.
somehow Ripple was already set up, and they were like, listen, we can work with these guys, and a lot of the problems that we foresee happening with Bitcoin, we can solve them with Ripple.
Yeah, I mean, again, the timeline and everything escapes me, but everybody's entry, at least, I mean, when I got into Bitcoin and crypto was 2015, right? So since
Early.
then, yeah, I mean, not too early because Bitcoin was out already in 2009. So I was actually, I mean, early now in hindsight, but late to the party then. And it
Late to the
was,
party, but let's be honest. Like that was, when you got in. Like, by the way, I still hated crypto because I was part of. I didn't invest, but I was living in Hong Kong. And there was a scam that happened in 2016. OneCoin. I saw the
Mount
OneCoin
Gox.
thing. No, one coin. It was one in Hong
or
Kong. You
one
can Google
coin.
it afterwards. Yeah, it actually became famous. The person that took all the money and ran, they had offices in Hong Kong, great office space, a CEO that spoke multiple languages, that was head of Asia. I met him, and then like a year later, I went for a meeting to discuss something else with him. And it really didn't matter. And then it was shut down,
Yeah,
and I Googled, and I was like, oh my God, this wasn't a scam. So that was, for me, that was crypto.
right.
But then like, years later, I invested with Dogecoin is what's what brought me in, and Gemini. I actually tweeted Gemini, posted yesterday, and quoted Gemini. I was like, listen, you guys are the ones I'm in, reason I'm in crypto because you guys were like doing the whole subway marketing with like crypto and these rules, regulations, and all that.
Yeah, they
But
were very
yeah,
much more lenient than Coinbase was at the time for that, the off ramp, the crypto to
they were
the
also more
bank.
strict. They were also more strict with regulations and all that stuff. I believe they were the ones that were like, listen, we have to do this by the book, and then everybody else copied. Maybe I'm wrong. I know Coinbase is older than Gemini. But I know that they were really strict, really
Yeah,
pushing
no,
the
no, for
regulatory.
sure. And you know, you had all these people that came out of it. So whether it was, I mean, white paper starts, right? And then you had people who took this idea and well, I could do it this way. And it was a fork on a fork on a fork, not a direct technical fork, but an idea fork, right? And then you had the exchanges building up, and you saw the things that were going on with Mt. Gox. So in this short time, we're talking about now going on 16 years, you've had, you know, hundreds of scams, hundreds of lawsuits, regulations. China has banned it 17 times since then. Russia's banned it like at
China.
least 15
I
times.
love
And
China.
now, and now everybody's coming to the fold because of the legitimacy now. And now, 6 days from now, it will be more legitimized than ever because one of the things that a lot of people are holding out hope for, is the fact that now we have a pro crypto president. A lot of There's going to be a lot of deregulation. A lot of things that happened with Choke 22.0, which people should do their research on, which was basically the Department of Justice under Biden, basically coming down on.
Elizabeth Warren heading it, and
Yeah,
one of the reasons why one of our heroes, John Deaton, ran against her.
right. And you had all these things happening and really crippled the industry completely, and like crippled people's livelihoods, and just didn't allow for innovation to flourish. And that is now basically going to be overturned. So day one, Trump has promised and I read an article, I think I sent it to you as well, an executive order basically saying that he's going to do stuff. And for
And he
anybody who's
better
like,
and he better sign he better get Russ Ulrich free because
right,
if he does that
Russ is
one thing,
coming
just
out.
freeze Russ Ulrich day one. By the way, there's no minimum age. If you can get your hands on money and internet connection, well, a credit card or debit card, then you can buy crypto. At least that's how
Yeah.
we look at it in the U.S. But
Yep.
I believe that if he just basically Gary Gensler stepping down and him releasing Russ Ulrich, doing those two things, will have Bitcoin skyrocket and XRP, in my opinion.
They will, because of the news items will be out there, and like you'll see it on the Bloomberg
Yeah,
terminals,
but
and a
we're
lot of
saying that
people
now.
like.
But this is the thing, though. That other people were saying that's buy the rumor, sell the news event, like everything else. They're gonna be like, listen, the day that Trump steps into office, everything's gonna crash.
Well, the reason for that is because and then going back to like the XRP, the promise of something, right, in the future that is, somewhat detailed, but the promise of it is more valuable than actually doing it. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. And that sounds like counterintuitive, but when you really think about it, XRP and like, going to, what we're just talking about right now with Trump and all these executive orders or whatnot, that hypes people up. When it's actually done, when the news is over, what's the next thing, right? All right, so you had this, partnership, XRP had this partnership with MoneyGram. Go look at the charts. I mean, we could pull it up maybe on next stream, or, I'll send it to you so you could post. But there was a tremendous amount of people that wanted to get in now. But the problem with that becomes that once that's over and those partnerships or that technology or that release or that update is actually out there, then you got to provide the next one. And that's the sell the
Definitely,
news event.
and that's a segue into what I want to talk about as well. Now, before I get into this next section, I want to just mention something that we haven't planned. Well, I'm sure you know Tim Scott is the head
Mhm.
of, as promised, head of the banking committee, and they just created a subcommittee with Senator Lummis, who's the most crypto politician in
City
DC.
Lummis, yeah.
Yeah, that's the first time. When you take that into account, that the Senate's doing this, right? We have the most pro crypto Congress in history, and almost all of Tim's picks, cabinet picks, own Bitcoin to some extent, including the fact that I forgot his name, but the AIs are coming in. He's
David
is his
Sachs.
his venture capitalist firm is actually an early stage investor in Solana. How after Trump is in office, how do you see this first 100 days playing out? Do you think that is going to be a heavy Like I know he has a lot of
You're breaking up there. Can you hear me?
from the border with Mexico. I can hear you fine.
All right.
But what do you think? Do you think that this is bullish? That the first 100 days you're going to see a lot of crypto policies being passed, going through terms of just from the Congress, going to Trump's desk, and etc. Just everything going on, momentum.
If so, I'm going to paint this as the ideal scenario, right? The ideal scenario is you'll start seeing not just Trump passing these executive orders and a lot of the deregulation, improving the you mentioned Tim Scott, improving some of these exchanges, whether it be Coinbase or Gemini's relationships with banks and new companies that are able to be having a bank account now, not being kind of vilified by the Department of Justice or any banking committees or whatnot. So the innovation, the groundwork will lay there. I think, and we haven't discussed this yet, but the strategic reserve that Cynthia Lummis has basically, she already wrote the bill. It's just a matter of it
Yeah, she
being
ordered like
voted
well,
on,
it
I
was
think.
it was in August when the well, she
Right,
ordered it before August because it was when we saw it for the first time. Go
right.
ahead.
So here's the thing, and this is how I view how the rest of the world thinks about finances: is whatever the U.S. does, everybody just copies because we don't provide anything as far as like materials to the world anymore. The pearl that we
Everything we
have.
provide is this.
Right. Well, the pearl is our financial markets, right? Where anybody with an idea could come to the United States and flourish, whatnot. So if you have a strategic reserve of Bitcoin for the United States, there's going to be a ripple effect, and no pun intended. But the effect is going to, let's say,
Hey.
domino effect. So I don't want to upset anybody.
No, you can say
Ripple
Ripple. It's fine.
die.
You can say Ripple as many times as you
All right.
want.
Let's just do the ripple. Let's
You can say Ripple as many times as you want.
XRP.
Not financial
Um,
advice.
Not financial advice. But I think states are going to start adopting it. You've already heard some news about that, where states. So now you have 51 state or 50 states, but territories too, that might have their own states strategic reserve now.
We have 13 states now, I believe, that are. By the way, I interviewed. I don't know if you saw, but I interviewed Alabama state auditor,
Oh,
who was the one
nice.
that made national news for promoting a Bitcoin
That's
strategic
right.
reserve in Alabama. But yeah, go ahead.
Which, well, that's the whole point, right? Like people like that are going to start on the state level, start bringing their own resolutions and their own bills to have a state reserve. So you have the United States, its states, companies that you've already seen, right? Rumble, Tesla has for a while. I think Michael Saylor was trying to get Microsoft, and maybe one day we'll see Apple have a strategic reserve. And I think once you start seeing that, I think you're going to start seeing nation states, more nation states, besides El Salvador, Argentina, are going to come to line and have their own strategic reserve.
Well, let's see,
So,
because we hope that. I remember I wrote an article and I was like, "Yo, well, he's talking about the U.S. dollar and his country, maybe crypto, Bitcoin, but he really let us down, at least for now, with regards to that. We thought we were
I
gonna
think,
like close El Salvador.
right. Well, there's a lot to do with these countries. It's not just, hey, what do you do? They have their own problems and they have a lot of things to do. And I think companies have a lot of, their own problems. But ultimately, and this is not financial advice, but if you are a organization, country, or even an individual, and you do not have at least 1% of your worth in specifically Bitcoin, although you can dabble and that pie can, those slices can get a little thinner with whatever alt you're in, but the majority has to be as the reserve Bitcoin. If you're not exposed to it, then you're going to be kicking yourself down the line. But I think beyond that, I think if we start looking at like 5, 10 years down the line, you're going to be poor because of it. Because now you'll have nation states, actual states, corporations, all all basically piling on, and remember there's only 21 million Bitcoin. You can divide that in 8 decimal places, but at the end of the day, you don't want to get caught with your pants down. Basically, I mean that's the best
Definitely.
expression I should use. So if you don't have that in your strategic reserve, an investment or in a retirement account or whatever it is, which now I think there's a lot of opening for that, then you're going to be left behind. And I think people have seen the trajectory, right? You've seen how far it's gone, and I'm kicking myself because when I got into Bitcoin, it was about 250 bucks,
How about
right?
the people? Hey, listen, look, it's just very. Sui, my friend the other day was upset that he got into Sui at $1.70. I was like, bro, why are you freaking out about?
But that's the thing. It goes along more to like,
Dude,
okay, it's the price of something, right? But like, I'll be honest with you. I know the decentralized and the distribution mechanics of Bitcoin because it's very well known. can you tell me how much Ethereum is the supply? Can you tell me how much XRP is the supply? Like, they don't, because you can always issue more and you can always inflate the currency based on the protocol, right? Bitcoin, you can't. Bitcoin's the only protocol that would require a what they call the 51% attack, basically, to really, shift the network
which
and,
is
and
why
be
we
to
want to,
decentralized.
which is why we want to keep it decentralized and have it in as many countries as possible. We're
Right.
agnostic. We are both into politics, but we're both libertarians, and we understand the value of cryptocurrency. And I want servers everywhere, miners everywhere, miners in Iran, Russia, U.S., China, if possible. Well, I'm sure they have some.
They have
Argentina,
them. You can
everywhere in
check
the
out the
world.
nodes. They have nodes out there.
Yeah,
They
we
have,
want that. We want nodes in El Salvador. We don't want them all in one country because when it's in one country, that country it becomes what you call. Fernando, you're better at this than I am. I believe you when you put it all in one country, it becomes centralized, and
right,
now basically that country can be like, listen, turn off everything or just crash the system somehow, and now
right.
you have
Well,
a problem.
and,
Which,
and
but
that argument,
which
right.
some people think Ripple's doing
We
right
do, we
now
do, we do.
with the escrow situation where they release more XRP into the supply every month, right? They're kind of
Right,
also and they also own a lot of it too. So they
right.
say I
Which
don't believe
is
centralized, but maybe it is. I don't know.
it
That's could be
dilutes
money.
it dilutes it dilutes its value. And you mentioned something before about the centralization of things. And I think if you go back and review Trump's speech at um, the Bitcoin conference in Tennessee back in August, his argument for why he's so interested, and why the government should be interested, is because we don't want to leave this in China's hands inevitably, or one nation states in controlling this, right? The decentralization has to happen, but America has to lead on not just the decentralization, but in the innovation, right? And I think that
Definitely.
that was the main argument, like why we should start pushing this a little bit more. Not so much pushing it on people, but having the conditions in the United States to be able to have miners here, right? Have people who are building protocols and platforms off this technology, because we are the most dominant innovators in the history of mankind. And for us to continue to do that, we need to open up the technology and the regulations to allow these innovations. Are people going to get burned? That's People get burned in the stock market all the time.
Yeah, but
That's why
nobody
there's an
cares.
SEC.
Nobody cares though because the powers of the powers, the people that control the money supply, they benefit from people getting burned in the stock market. They don't necessarily. We've for the first time in world history, we've regular people, retail investors, have front run the big money, and they are not
Right.
happy. They want us out of crypto. That's why you see all these dumps. They want basically people to sell so they can
When you had
buy.
the
What happened
government,
yesterday? Michael
the
Saylor. What happened with
government
Michael
was
Saylor?
selling.
Yeah, Michael Saylor. They freaked
Yes,
everybody out. Jim Cramer freaked
yeah,
everybody out. People started selling like crazy. And who bought up the cheap Bitcoin? Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor. Yep. Because it's an engineer. It's a market manipulation, and it's an engineering from people who do know and have, like the Larry Fink, of BlackRock.
That is
He
the
has the
biggest
ability.
script ever, by the way, brother. He
Right.
does not care about Bitcoin. People were calling him Bitcoin Jesus. I like to call him Bitcoin Jesus as a joke. He does not give a f about Bitcoin. He just cares about
No.
making money, and he sees that there's money in it.
And that's it. And his. I mean, when you look at like an investment firm, how they make their money off risky investments that
And
they
hedging it, right?
hedge. Right.
You put some of the money into safe investments, some of the into
Right.
more risky investments, and then you hope that the risky investments you don't lose your shirt, and you hope that they, in theory, that they give you a really big return, and then your safer investments also give you a little bit of return, and you make money for your investment in yourself.
Right, and the hedging happens because they have fiduciary responsibility to their clients to make sure that they, are making the best valuable investment with the most knowledge or whatnot. But when you look at a typical investment firm, if you get maybe like 8% to like 10% year over year return, they're great, and there's management fees that are attached to that. I think what they saw was that, wow, this is really good technology. Number one, this is inevitably all stock market trading is going to be tokenized and it's going to be on chain. That's not even that far down the line. I would say that's the next 5 to 10 years. That's what you're going to start seeing from the traditional financial uh, world, right? They're going to start tokenizing. It's already happening. So,
Definitely, yeah, and they're gonna be
right,
yeah they're gonna be doing things like, for example, Facebook Meta stock ticker is Meta, right? META. Don't be surprised if in the future you're gonna see Meta trading on the New York Stock Exchange or Nasdaq or wherever it trades Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 8 sorry 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then you're also going to see Meta on the blockchain, which is 24/7. Holidays, weekends, anytime that the blockchain is up, which is always you'll be able to buy Meta stock in an alternative fashion. You will see that kind of a world, right?
Right. And you also have some other catalysts, right, that are going to be happening if the Federal Reserve starts printing more money like they did. So the last run, post COVID was basically a lot of people had helicopter money that they're like, well, I really didn't earn this. How can I make it more? And I think you saw like a groundswell
Fernando,
of
tell that DJ.
yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. So basically, we usually I want to do this with Fernando specifically. I do this all the time, but with Fernando specifically, every first Sunday of the month, probably probably around 7 or 8 p.m. East. Well, sorry, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I know you got to go to class. Thanks for tuning in, brother. And Fernando, yeah, continue, brother.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, just going back, I think somebody made a comment about the debt system, right? That it's going to catch on with people, with organizations, how they could use debt, and it's the same thing of it's what I was saying before. If you have an injection of capital or a supply of money from the United States government, so basically they start printing more money, Bitcoin is going to be even more valuable because a lot of that, inflated money is going to find its way to a more deflationary asset. And I think once that starts, and like the comments of the person said, once that starts catching on, I think you're going to see, $1 million Bitcoin, right? My projections for this cycle, I mean, not only do I think it's going to be $200,000, it could be more, just by trends and we're in price
I mean, if you
discovery right
get if
now,
you if the stars are aligned and you get enough countries and enough states that want to do it. Which, by the way, I just
right?
want to make a note. I'm really upset at the fact that it's mostly Republican states doing it, and Pennsylvania is like a moderate leaning state. I hope that you could see more places like California and New York, but it is what it is. But yeah, if you get more states
Right.
and more countries doing it, more companies doing it, you might be able to. Again, this is like the stars align perfectly. Don't be surprised if you get a $500,000 Bitcoin. But this is like everything just works out perfectly. There's no recession. You get
Yeah.
an extended bull market cycle, all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
No pandemic, no massive cataclysmic event, and for sure, and like we can't play with just ideal scenarios alone, but the ideal scenario does give a lot of hope because inevitably once this does come to fruition, like it's already there. Like I'm looking at everything now, and it's still a lot of it's surreal to me because it was a joke 10 years ago. It's like, oh, you invest in Bitcoin, like that's a joke.
Just like
That's
Doge.
for scammers, and like Jamie Dimon just said yesterday, right? That and that's one of the other people, right? That puts out all these pieces of information. Oh, it's scam, but they're internally working on systems to tokenize their own assets. But Bitcoin's a scam, like that train of thought is ludicrous to me, and I think because of we live in the world of also decentralized information, I think a lot of people are going to come to their own conclusions once they start doing the research. You're already seeing the smartest people in the room doing it, but it's the retail, it's the average person, it's the person who wants to pay down debt, or the person who's probably getting out of college with massive debt. Like I'm already getting into the world in debt, right? So I have to be smarter about my money. I have to park my money in better places. Why would I park my money in like a bond that gives me 5%, which I have to lock up when the returns for Bitcoin have been insane? You have to withstand them, right? But ultimately, once they do pass, it's you're looking at like 5, 10, and over 100x sometimes. Again, this is not financial advice, but I'm a believer.
Listen, something that's really been bothering me right now that I won't want to talk about that nobody is talking about. Listen, right now, a lot of people, not you and me, right? A lot of people keep their money on it, their crypto on exchanges.
Mhm.
I believe, maybe I'm wrong, that if everybody, or at least 50% of the people that keep their cryptocurrency on exchanges, I understand institutions have to do it because they have a fiduciary duty, but retail investors, if even half of us that keep some crypto on exchanges take it off of exchanges, that's gonna basically make the companies like Coinbase and Binance show, listen, we are going into our reserves now because we don't have that all in our books. No, we have the cryptocurrency on our books when people keep it on exchanges, but when it's off, as soon as everyone's taking it off of exchanges, we have less reserves. So that'll make every cryptocurrency asset basically go up in value, right? If there's a supply
Right.
shock because they have less reserves. You think that's a good theory, or am I
No,
wrong?
it's spot on. I mean, I tend to follow those alerts when I see like, big accounts, big wallets, I have an alert basically set up when they start taking things off exchange. It's extremely bullish. Like if they're not selling it, which is the opposite is true when they start putting it in exchange, and you start
Yeah, that's
seeing
when you have to be
uh,
worried.
right, like the Ethereum Foundation has been selling Bitcoin for selling Ethereum for like the past 6 to 8 months consistently, dumping on their holders. But basically, they're institutional. They're an institution who's doing this, right? So that leads you to believe that, well, if the big institution is putting their money in exchange or putting their coins in exchange, why are they doing that? Right? They're going to sell it, right? So
Yeah.
that's the catalyst for that. And speaking about, and I always do this, and this is just like going back to like hodling and like keeping your money off exchanges. If you're going to do that, do it with a hardware wallet, have a ledger. You could do a
Or
Trezor. They've
I
got
like by the way, I like Tangem and Arculus because they're really beginner user friendly. Like for
right,
beginners, like people that don't know anything, they look like credit cards and they're really easy to set up.
right.
But yeah, so
I
use
think people
Ledger,
have to do their
Trezor as
research.
well.
Ledger, I not that I push, but anytime that anybody tells me like, it's the levels of getting into this. Oh, I opened up
And
an
they better start
exchange
paying you, by the way. If
account.
you're gonna push this, they better start paying you money. No, real
Actually, I don't
talk.
want to get paid because then it influences. You start seeing that. That's another thing that people have to really look at. This podcast is not sponsored by anybody. There's always
Yeah,
an
we don't want
agenda,
sponsors.
right? Right. That's the thing. I don't want to sponsor either because then my experience or what I'm saying becomes clouded by who's paying me to say it. So no, it's what I use. I'm gonna tell you what I use. Like I use a ledger. I might get something else in the future. I have three different ledgers, right? So it's not just all in one place. And I think once people start going through this, right? You first start off getting the bug, right? Then you might buy some coin, and then you open up your exchange account, you open up multiple wallets. The end goal, right, is to become your own bank. And to do that, you have to start learning the ins and outs of this seriously, because if not, like, this happened to my wife. This was about 2 years ago. We had money on Bank of America. Somebody called into Bank of America, basically pretending that it was her, saying that she's in a funeral in California, right? That she was in a funeral and like she lost her debit card, and to please send her a new one to this specific address where she was staying at. The bank did it. They didn't
They
question
did
it.
it?
There was money.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Our account was wiped
Horrible.
basically.
That's horrible. And by the way, another no, like that's horrible. But like, I had a situation with my ex-wife. Blah blah blah. The bank levied my bank account, and they flushed my bank account as well. So I just want to add it to you, what you're saying that yeah, you never know when you're your own bank. It's much safer.
But that's counterintuitive. Like the security is baked into the account process at Bank of America or at Chase, right? It's like they have their servers, they have their security teams,
Yeah,
but there's always a way that people can get through that. And like we spoke about scams before, like a lot of people have been scammed in crypto, Big Connect, and like get all these huge scams, right? I think and this is horrible to say, this is not a great thing, but sometimes people have to get scammed to learn their lesson. It sucks.
I had to learn
You,
my lesson the hard way, right? And that's what
right.
got me into the hardware storage. I was like, listen, the government can, in theory, they can take your money for any reason they want. They can say that you're a terrorist or something. They can claim anything they want. In theory, now that it's going to happen, and drain your account or put a freeze in your account temporarily for whatever reason.
But to that point, if Kamala did win and we did live in that alternate universe, and you started transacting after she was in office, we heard stories, and because I've never experienced it myself, but where the IRS was just monitoring people's accounts over $600. Could you imagine if you had an account with Coinbase and you transferred some of your funds over to your account? The regulation, the paperwork that will stop the transaction. It is still your money, but you're not doing it the way that we want you to. So
How about
when
the
you're living
Canadian
in a
truckers? How about the
yeah,
Canadian truckers, right? We're not in a
right.
situation, thankfully, that Canadian truckers have, but they were protesting just because they were protesting, and a lot of us thought that was a noble cause. Their bank accounts were frozen. And what if they had
Right.
crypto wallets and they're transacting in
Well,
crypto?
well, not that it would have been frozen, but ultimately it's the off ramp because a lot of people still don't accept Bitcoin for transactions. So there is an off ramp you need to, have to convert your Bitcoin to dollars. And to do that, you need that relationship with the bank, right? Or
We
the
got to change that
exchanges
until
that they want.
I hope that in the long term future or even midterm future, who knows with Trump, you never know that maybe in a really short
You
term
never know.
future that we can become like El Salvador. Every company is compelled by law to accept both U.S. dollars and to have a Bitcoin machine. Every single company that's registered has to have a Bitcoin
Now that
machine
you
by
put that
law.
out there, my first notion is I don't know if I like that because I like the freedom of choice as well. And I like the people
Yeah,
can
but they have a
choose what
choice
they
in El
want.
Salvador. You can choose choose U.S. dollars or Bitcoin machine, but you have to have a Bitcoin machine. They have the
Right, and I
choice.
think that compels people, like, it's almost like, "Oh, well, is the government telling me, like, I have to buy this thing to be," and I don't know if I don't know if it goes with the ethos of what crypto is specifically. I think it's a freedom of choice. I think it's a better way of doing it. I don't know about forcing them. Ultimately, the government should start accepting it, right? They should, the government itself,
And
for
they will. They will
taxes.
for taxes. I think that some states do.
Right.
And listen, we have an event in Puffy coming up the February 8th. We're confirming the date. Maybe it might be a later date, but we're confirming tonight, which you'll be at as well. You might moderate. Who knows? You change your mind. But yeah, so Puffy accepts Bitcoin. They prefer you pay in Bitcoin. That's
Right.
what Trump was. It became the
Well,
first
no
president to
no
ever
shit.
pay in
They want your
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, right? They want your Bitcoin,
Well,
right?
yeah,
They don't have
fair
to pay
enough. The
any
owner.
transaction fees.
Hey, but in all fairness, they have amazing food and they have Wagyu beef.
Yeah, it's a
I'm in the
great place,
Telegram
man,
chat. Yeah,
and it
you've been there,
and it's
yeah,
a
and
great
also, and not
hub.
just that, but like this, I believe that Whole Foods takes Bitcoin as well, and there's some supermarkets that like, especially mom and pop supermarkets and shops that take Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Control. I just got an alert right now that JP Morgan has said that I think it was XRP, Sol, and I think ETH are potentially going to be valued at more than $14 billion combined.
You mean the ETFs? Is that what we're talking about? The ETF news? Well, you're freezing in and out. So while we wait for you to come back, I can see
Right,
that.
JP Morgan. It's the ETF. JP Morgan predicts that the inflows of the ETFs of XRP and Sol are going to be $14 billion.
Yeah, that's
So
good. Listen, I know you got to go because I appreciate, by the way, we're supposed to be doing it on
yeah, man.
Sundays, right? At 9 p.m.
Yeah,
And
I
I
actually
appreciate
like
the
it
fact
during the
that
week
you
better. It's just I'm in my flow weekend. I'm in my off. It takes me like sometimes
listen.
because
If we can
I
do it,
do have
if we
the
can do it, if we can do it a week, if you want to do like every Monday, because football season's almost over. If you want to do like every Monday night, I'm cool with that. Like, I mean, sorry, every first Monday of the year, that's fine with me.
first Monday of the
If that
month.
works, yeah, every first Monday night of the month, I'll do that for February. But yeah, I like nighttime better. I'm a morning person. For me, I'm the most
I'm a night
productive
person.
from 7 a.m. I'm the most productive from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then after that, I'm like, I hope I get most of my work done. Which is, by the way, I would love to live on the West Coast. So I love waking up at 5:30 and getting everything done by
Yeah.
1 p.m. But,
I,
yeah,
I'm
so
I'm the exact opposite. I want to live in Spain, so I work at night and not have to like worry about waking up early. So, but it works out because we
You're
meet in the middle.
you're right though. You're right because at nighttime that's when people watch stuff like this. They don't watch it in the day. Like right now, we haven't had many views. But if it was nighttime, bro, it's like even over 100 views.
For
But
sure.
anyway, we gotta get going. So what are the last things before I do my outro and we head out?
Last thing is do your research. I think we're gonna be living in the craziest time, and I don't say crazy in a bad way. I think it's amazing time to be specifically an American. But I think that that's going to reverberate throughout the world because what we're going to do, what has been promised by the mandate that Donald Trump has and his administration and the people that he's put in position, is to really make this country as a hub for crypto innovation. And with that, I truly do feel that people like this is like the best time ever to get started if you have been, because you already have close to 16 years of this information being out there. What works, what doesn't, what's good, what isn't. So there is some of that background information. You have AI now that can help you disseminate different things. I just think a lot of people can get lost in the weeds to what's going to happen. So definitely do your research. But follow us, man. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Not financial advice. I think people need to do this more. People need to have these conversations more, just to dispel a lot of the things that are the rumors that people talk about when it comes to this stuff. And ultimately, I think that we'll see it, right? So let's do this for like the next time. We'll make a prediction. So Bitcoin right now is at what, $96,000, and the next time we do this will be like mid-February. So
You
I'm
know, it'll be
predicting
February. It'll be February 3rd. I have
right for
a
beginning of
date that
February.
day, February 3rd, Monday night. So it'll be basically a week after Trump's, a little bit over 2 weeks after, actually, almost exactly 2 weeks since Trump took office. Yeah,
So 2 weeks,
it's
right?
Monday. Yeah, so we'll basically have a better view of how everything's going to play out. In two
Right.
weeks, we're going to know what Trump's doing because the first 100 days are the most important of any presidents. So the first 14 days, what he does for 14 days, and how other states, other countries follow, that's going to give us a good idea of where Bitcoin's heading.
I have two proposals. Well, one is my predictions. because I'm gonna get that out of the way. For that specific date, I think we'll have a new all-time high on Bitcoin. Um,
Okay.
right? So that's prediction number one. But I actually would propose to do this where maybe next week we'll do like a shorter version of this just to see, in those first few days, if you did
And
free
listen,
Ross day one.
I'm gonna put the calendar up for the third. But if you text me
Okay.
like, listen, let's go live right now, I'm not gonna say no. Especially
Yeah,
on
I
Monday.
think
And if you want to send me on Monday, that's a holiday too. I mean, crypto's
right.
24/7. But if you text me on Monday
No,
after
well,
inauguration, you're
it's
like, let's go
how
live,
about
we'll
day
go live.
two? Maybe the Tuesday, maybe a week from now, where
Hey,
he did
whatever
the
you want,
ball.
brother.
He's already in office on that morning. I want to see the orders passed. Maybe towards the afternoon, we can do a shorter version of this and
Listen, if we
see
gotta do
if
this, if
there's
we
an
gotta do this
update.
every 2 days, because listen, if shit is going crazy, and we gotta make your channel too, because we gotta do this on your channel as well. It's not fair just to do it on my channel, but you gotta create your channel,
My channel
and if you want to
sucks.
like every other no, well we all have a YouTube channel, whatever. Start doing this.
Let's do it on
Listen,
X. We can do it on
and
X.
X Space, but if we want to do this, listen, there's gonna come a point where we're gonna have to be. I make create content every day as the way of practicing, but there's gonna come a point where there's gonna be news coming in all the time. All these YouTubers,
No, I
they
know.
make videos like every. Some of them times they make
But
5 videos a day.
this is gonna be my third cycle, right? So I'm very well aware of like the influx of news. But what I'm saying is like for this one, right? Because this is like the biggest like governmental one where the free Ross day one and like all these executive orders of that article that I sent you. I want to see how they play out and if he did it. And I think that's going to be a good indicator on his second day in office if we have that bright future that we're talking about because all those promises must be kept. You have to free Ross, and these executive orders that
That one thing.
he's talked
That's the
about
one
has
first
to be
thing. That's the first
passed
thing I want. The first thing I want is just pre-Ross. Just pre-Ross.
for
After
sure.
that, that alone, they'll be like, okay, listen, this mofo is serious. If you pre-Ross no one too, I'll take it. But probably not. But pre-Ross, that's what I want.
I truly do believe. I had this discussion with somebody about it. I truly do believe it's going to happen. It's a campaign promise, and I'm not just like this like Trump supporter, super MAGA, because I did vote for the guy. I'm not going to even lie, but and I voted for him twice,
And
and
listen, the
won both.
pro Bitcoin pack promised him 5 million votes, right? And how many did he beat Kamala Harris by the popular vote? 5 million
Right.
votes. So that was all us.
I mean, that pushed him over. I don't want to say over the edge, but that definitely propelled him to the victory for sure.
That
And I
gave him
think if
the overwhelming mandate. That gave him the
right,
overwhelming mandate of winning by that many votes. If he would have won by a
and
million, it wouldn't be as powerful as by 5 million. And I honestly do believe that at least 3 million of those votes were because Trump was so pro crypto. That's a personal opinion.
yeah, and with that, just echoing your point is that he owes those people right, and the
He owes
first thing is
us.
everybody said
They use
free
our
Ross,
money. They use our investment money to
right?
lobby him.
So we'll see. So day two. So again, we'll talk about it. Maybe we could do a shorter version of this. But if he does not free Ross on, I'm going to give it to day two. All right,
He
because the
has to day
inauguration's
two.
day
He has to
one.
do.
Well, I don't know if he's gonna because if you're saying January 20th, they have those
You think that? But
balls
yeah,
that
but is he,
night, the
the president
parade.
didn't actually do it? Did the president actually do anything on inauguration day? We're about to learn because the last time I remember, Biden all he did was celebrate inauguration
Biden
day, and
slept. Biden
all the
slept
orders
and
were.
had his pudding, and he slept by eight
Yeah, but the
o'clock.
orders were the next. But the day that he filled out the executive orders, it was like, what am I signing? Was day two, right?
What am I saying? Day
Yeah, that was day
two is
two.
when they're in the office. Morning, let's go. First day at the job again.
Executive orders, just like executive orders, free Ross, executive orders.
So we'll see. And I think so. Those two predictions is by the third or whatever. I think he'll have an all time high, and I think he will free Ross day two. And if I'm wrong about both, then we cancel this whole back and forth, and we'll never do it again because I'm
The
an
bull
idiot.
runs
I don't know what
over.
I'm talking
Okay.
about.
Anyway, with that, I have to go to New Hampshire, a state that recently just proposed to have a Bitcoin strategic reserve as well. I had a legislator
There
do
you
it a
go.
few days ago. All
I'm
right,
surprised those
upwards and onwards,
Democrats, those
brother.
snowy Democrats, even care. But they're not just like skiing right now because it's still ski season.
They're conservatives. Anyway, I'll talk to you offline, brother. I always like to say upwards and onwards, and let's get it. Let's
Peace.
go.